How do you feel about homeschooling?
Homeschooling is good if you are serious. What do I mean by that? I've evaluated children 2-3 years after they got homeschooled. And you know what happened? Their parents taught them nothing. Okay. No, real. Yeah. I had a boy in a charter school, a black charter school, was homeschooled for 2 years. Teacher said he can't read. Sent him to the school psychologist for a special ed eval, right? He started crying on my IQ test. His tears are falling on the IQ test protocol. I said, young man, what's wrong? He's like 5th or 6th grade. He said, Dr. Umar, I'm not dumb. I'm not special ed. My mom homeschooled me for 2 years and taught me nothing. Wow. So I had to go and tell the principal, this ain't no special ed issue. Special ed is for kids with learning disabilities. He ain't got no learning disability. He never been taught. He never been,
exactly.
So when you bring up homeschooling, I'm going to ask you 5 questions. Number 1, are you doing this because you want to teach your kid, or are you doing it just because you don't like public school? A big mistake homeschooling parents make, they homeschool because they don't like school. Okay. But they not homeschooling because they want to teach.
Facts.
You feel me? I've had parents fill out the homeschool paperwork because they always dropping their kid off late from school, and now they're about to get hit with truancy. And so to prevent truancy court, I'm homeschooling. That ain't why you homeschool. So that's number 1. Are you doing it for the right reason? Number 2, are you an organized parent? Because guess what, bro? If you running 2 or 3 businesses and your wife got a full-time job, who gonna homeschool him? You feel me? You gotta have time to homeschool. You gotta have time. A lot of black activists, they wanna homeschool their kids. They're the worst people to homeschool. You know why? Because you're too involved in the community to educate the kids.
True.
Now, if you say, Dr. Umar, I know of a teacher who runs her own homeschool business, that's cool. You paying somebody to do it for you.
Exactly.
But if you're gonna do it yourself, do you have time? Are you organized? Because if you're a disorganized human being, you're gonna be a disorganized teacher, your child ain't gonna learn nothing. Here's the 3rd one, very important. Do your children like you enough for you to homeschool them?
Oh, I don't like them enough.
Let me give you an example. Hypothetically, you are a perfectionist. If your son or daughter make a mistake on their work.
He is a perfectionist, by the way. How you know that? How you know?
Right? But you feel me? Your son or your daughter, if they make a mistake, you snap off on them. You yell at them. You feel me?
You don't have the patience.
Yeah, that's real.
If you ain't got no patience, you're going to destroy your children's self-esteem.
Yeah.
If you ain't got, because let's be honest, we all think our kids should be perfect, which is why we sometimes can make the worst homeschool teachers. If you ain't patient, you can't. Because they're going, once your child cries during homeschool, you ain't the teacher no more. Find somebody else.
That's it. It's over with. It's over with. It's over.
That's it.
And if you keep that shit up, they're going to get turned off from getting the education. They're not even going to want to learn. Learning has become painful because that's the way my mother or my father taught me. You see that? So that's the other thing with homeschooling. And then another question you got to ask yourself, are you homeschooling until 12th grade, or are you homeschooling just for the next couple years? Let me give you an example. If you tell me, Dr. Umar, I got a 4th grader, I'm homeschooling until 7th. I'm going to tell you to download the state of Florida state standards for each grade, right? Because you got to see where that child need to be when you put them back in, right? So they don't end up in front of me crying on the IQ test. You feel me? Now, if you're going to homeschool till 12th grade, you good. But if you only homeschooling for a couple years, you better make sure them kids are on grade level when you stick them back in. You got to begin with the end in mind. This cannot be you have to think out homeschooling. You don't just do it overnight. Also, make sure you fill out the damn paperwork. I know a lot of parents got in trouble, lost their kids, got fined, went to jail because they just started homeschooling and didn't fill out the paperwork. You got to fill out the paperwork, right? The other thing, are you going to do a year-round homeschooling program, or are you going to follow the school's calendar? That's very important. Very important, right? And then the other question is, how are you going to make up for the lack of social activity and social skills development, right?
That's that point.
Because I don't need your homeschool child looking autistic after 2 years, and they're not autistic because you didn't put them in situations where they can learn age and grade appropriate social skills. You follow what I'm saying? And the last thing, if that's a domestically abusive house, the fuck you homeschooling?
What? Talk to them.
You feel me?
It would be detrimental to their development.
During COVID, 5 years ago, black girls became the fastest growing suicide risk in America during COVID. Quarantine. You couldn't go to school, couldn't go outside. You know why black girls became the fastest growing suicide risk? Because public school, as bad as it is the only place for a lot of our daughters to get some peace of mind.
Oh, man.
I'm being emotionally abused by my mother. I'm being sexually abused by my uncle. I'm being bullied by my brother. I'm abandoned by my father. You see all that? And so black girls had to suffer at home, get no fresh air
2 years.
for a whole year or two.
Yeah.
And now they the #1 suicide risk because of that. So when people say I'm a homeschool, are you really going to homeschool, or are you just going to be home fooling around with them kids?
Yeah.
Home fools or homeschool?
I deal with that.
I got
now.
So my son, 3 years old, what can guarantee his success in a racist America?
Nothing.
Is that even possible?
It is. But I didn't think that was going to be your question, because I don't think that's where you start. Because he's 3. At 3 years old, I want you to be inundating that young man's life with literature. I want to see very little TV, very little TV.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very little video game, very little cell phone, very little
iPad.
tablet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because philosophically, there's something called the language acquisition device, right? Philosophically, that exists in the brain of a child. Your son's vocabulary is going to quadruple between age 3 and age 6 if you give him literature. You feel me? I want him with the Lego blocks. I want him with crayon and coloring book, black characters. I want him with pen and paper. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't want no damn TV. What are we doing in the ghetto? We turn on YouTube and sit him in front of that shit. No!
Okay.
This is a young, fresh, growing brain. Literature, numbers. You should have flashcards with your son. All the colors, all the numbers, all the sizes, all the shapes,
Even if they
all
don't
the states,
understand it,
all the
just give it
bones
to
of the
them.
body. Yes, because they will. Understand, black children develop faster than every other child. So when the white people say they should be able to do this by 3, multiply that ×2 for a black kid. Our kids grow. This is even in the white people's books. Our kids develop faster than all other kids, including the Chinese, who we think are so smart. You see that? So your son, he need to be doing, manipulating, not watching and listening.
Give him a tab.
Nothing bothers me more than to see a 3-year-old in the back seat of the car with an iPad.
Please, preach, man, because
Wow.
I go through that every day right now as a teacher.
Final
But
question.
you know what the
before we wrap.
problem is? The problem is the mothers who are single, right, can't always find a babysitter. And so the iPad and the cell phone has become the black woman's surrogate father.
Ooh.
And I'm not blaming her, because she only doing what she can, right?
Yeah.
But it ain't helping our kids at all. But you got to think about this. If I get him a physical babysitter, how do I know they're not going to touch my child? But if I get him an iPad,
I know he's safe.
You know he's safe.
and I come home, he's going to be right where I left him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He going to be safe. You see that? So unfortunately, because black men are not organized to help our women with the kids collectively, mothers have to make terrible decisions like that.
Final question before we wrap it up. I saw something floating around, something about your daughter, potential daughter.
Oh,
I want
That
you
is
to,
my daughter.
okay, I want you to touch on that, because I wanted you to speak on it from your perspective outside of just what's going on in the world.
Well, I would say, not to go too deep, because that's
No, for sure.
But I would say my situation is the perfect situation that young black men or any black man will find yourself in when you don't practice sexual discipline. Because see, when
thank
my
you.
daughter was born, I
That's
was
real.
happy to be a father and I was ready to be one. But I was told that if I didn't marry the mother, I wouldn't be allowed to be. You see?
I went through that.
Yes, that was a pregnancy for marriage. It had nothing to do with me not wanting my child. I was ready. I was hyped. I was happy. You feel me?
Yeah.
And I said, I want this baby if you're going to let me be a father. I said, I don't want to be going to no child support, and I don't want to be going to no damn family court. And lo and behold, the very things I asked not to be subjected to, she subjected me to them.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying?
Okay.
And so, according to my daughter's narrative, her mother didn't share the truth with her. You felt her mother didn't tell her the real reason why I kept you from your father. And that was because I didn't marry her.
That's deep.
Damn.
So with that being said, I'm looking forward to building that relationship with my child. I'm patient with her because I know it can be tough to have one parent tell you, this is why your daddy wasn't there. And then for you to find out from your father, that ain't the reason I wasn't there.
That's not it.
She's the reason I wasn't there.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying? Yeah. So I know she's hurting because she love her mom. She loyal to her mom, right?
Yeah.
And I think she's ambivalent and conflicted because I think she feels like if I try to build a relationship with my father,
It's gonna affect.
is my mother going to feel some type of way? One thing you should never do is make your child choose sides.
Yes.
That is not their business. Black parents got to stop making our sons and daughters choose who you going to be with because that's the situation my daughter is in. I know she wants me. You feel me? I know it. But if I reach out to my father and come back home happy,
How mama gonna feel?
how mama gonna feel? She gonna feel like she betrayed her mother.
Yeah.
Why should a child feel like I betrayed my mother just to build a relationship with my father and I'm a grown woman?
Yeah, because you said you got receipts.
But guess what? I'm not gonna blame the mom. As a man, I'm gonna blame me.
Ooh,
I should have been more sexually disciplined back then.
that's a fact.
You understand? I created the situation. If I didn't impregnate that woman, she could have never done that to me. So at the end of the day, we as men have to take responsibility because our demons, our bad decisions, our lack of sexual discipline is eroding the foundation of our community. These women who we're not committing to, they're teaching our kids to hate us.
True.
And that's our fault. What they doing is wrong. But if we never sowed the seed in the first place, we could have never gave them a reason to do it. And so now you got a whole generation of young black girls who hate men. Some of them going to get turned into lesbians because they've been indoctrinated by their mother, their grandmother, their aunts, and everybody else that black men ain't ish. So if we want to save the community as black men, the first thing we got to do is we got to start practicing sexual discipline. Why Puffy on trial right now? Feel me?
Sexual discipline.
Sexual discipline, bro.
Yeah.
Check
We
yourself.
got to get that thing under control.
Gotta
It's a
take
political
shot.
weakness. It's a family weakness. It's a weakness all over the board, bro.
Even MLK, he couldn't even. Oh man.
Yeah,
he couldn't
he
control
had his
it.
moments, but this is what I say about the good reverend. Here's what I say
This
about
guy
the
done
good reverend.
sparked it back up.
Because I'm a Dr. King man.
No, I am too.
But here's what I say to that. Did Coretta Scott King ever discuss his infidelities with the public?
Never.
Never.
So why do we?